Howdy y'all, I am Ice Cold, and I personally dislike making negative type videos about like Wiz stuff, but today I've just got a little something on my mind, and it was something that that I was thinking about over the course of this week when I was trying to make the PvP videos, because I put out 4 this week as opposed to the usual 3, because I wanted to do Death PvP on Halloween, because you know, spooky day, right? But as I was doing them, on Wednesday, I was playing Ice with a couple of friends in the call, and before I got the Fire Wizard that I ultimately ended up beating when he, I guess deck failed or whatever, and gave me an open mammoth that did 4,600 damage, I got 2 Life Wizards before then. And it got me thinking, like, man, why is this a thing? Why do I just automatically lose? Why is the match automatically... Why do we know who is going to win the match the moment the second person loads into the game? And it's like, that one at least, that one isn't necessarily intended to be horrible. It's always been horrible. Like, even back when the game was good, it was not a fun matchup to play at all, if you were the Ice. But then Thursday and Friday's videos came, and on Thursday I initially got a Myth Wizard, and no matter what I did, there was nothing that I could do that he couldn't counter. It was like, I couldn't really set up anything, and that is a problem. It's like, the Death versus Myth matchup is horrific now, and back when it wasn't horrific, drains were busted beyond belief. So yeah, I mean, after the drain nerf, it's just been like Myth plus 40. It's probably, extended since then, given that Myth has shift, so you can't use poison anymore. It's like, or it's not about not being able to use poison anymore. You've never been able to use it against a Myth, but it's like it's like Myth will counter Death's new identity, and Myth will counter Death's legacy. So there's kind of just not much that Death can really do. The only thing that Death could have on a Myth is the blade part of their identity. Except the blade part of Death's identity is unfathomably weak, and the 2 spells that I can think of just off the top of my head, I can actually think of 3 spells off the top of my head that Myth just sort of inadvertently counters are Ghoul, Wraith, and King Artorias. And with Ghoul is a very good spell, and everybody knows that. I mean, you gambit a shield for a 55 blade, but if you put up a shield and the Myth drop bears on that very turn, like just drops everything and sends it, then you can't Ghoul anymore and get that blade. So it's like, you might be trying to set up a shield breaker move with the Ghoul, so that way you can break a shield, maybe break a weakness, and then get a 55 blade for it, set up a good hit. But it's like, if they just keep countering your shields that you need to use in order to set it up, it's just sort of chalked. You can't really do that. You can't gain momentum. You can't win the match. You can't play the game. And with Wraith, that also uses blades as part of its identity, you get blades on yourself first, and then you turn them into weaknesses. And we all know how weaknessing a Myth tends to go. I mean, that part's intentional. It's like, the devs intended for Myth to be very good against chromatic weaknesses. And then the last one is Death's King Artorias. Nobody uses the spell, but if people did, Myth would just roll it anyway, because it gambits blades for shields, which again, yeah, it's the same problem as Ghoul. It's like 1 drop bear is all you need to undo that. So it's like, there are some matchups where one school literally just physically cannot do anything, And it happened again in Friday's video, the Myth PvP video, and this time I was on the giving end of that. And I was against an Ice Wizard, and, you know, the Ice Wizard wasn't even playing bad. He was, you know, sitting under brace, which is what Ice has to do. Ice's resist is really high, you gotta play to your strengths, and he was doing a good job of that, but he couldn't set up anything, so he couldn't hit me back. And all that he could do was just sit there as I wailed on him. I would still do like 2,000 damage with a couple buffs into a brace. So it's like there's just such a delta between like some schools and others in some of these matchups, and it got me thinking about just how bad it is for the game that counter matchups exist. It's like I've sort of always thought this. I've always thought that counter matchups in a game with ELO and like deck RNG being the way it is, I always thought that was horrible. I don't know why they would add that, and I have always been critical of it, but we know it's here to stay. And yeah, I mean, I think that it was genuinely the worst addition, the worst update that ever came to Wiz was when counter matchups got added. And that kind of happened with Rochambeau, but it's like once like the Arc 1 spell elements and then later the Arc 2 spell elements, once those came out, it just became more like it was just a library diff at that point. And it's like some schools like Myth have immense card libraries. It's like Myth, Liam is a vibe, has a flowchart for Myth PvP. Blade, use a different blade, aura, and then use one of 3 spells. If they shield, you use a drop bear. If they weakness, you use a stone colossus, and if they do neither, you send a ninja pigs. And it works. I mean, you can just go by that flowchart and just win like that. It's like balance is pretty nuts right now, but I think that Myth requires even less skill than balance to play. And the fact that it doesn't matter how good you are, if you chose to play the wrong school that day, you are going to lose. It's like you can play exceedingly well, but just because of the school diff, just because of how the game was designed, the fate of that match was determined the second the countdown clock hit 15 seconds. And yeah, I mean, it's very, very hard to win counter matchups in this game, and it's like a minimum of 2 is the number of matchups that you are supposed to just lose. Just straight up, like the designers said, like every school except for Balance at the moment, but you know that's going to change soon. Balance is going to have like not that many good matchups either, but it's like 2 schools you just straight lose to, and that doesn't make sense to me. Why would you add that? Why would you do that? Why would you make the game worse deliberately? And they'll never see it this way, and that's sort of the issue there. It's like they won't see that a death, no matter how good they play, has no chance against a Myth who's like turned their brain off and is watching Cocomelon on their other monitor. It's like there is that, like that Myth Wizard can beat a Death Wizard. Just because, like, what can a Death do? A Death can't set anything up. It's like a Death can't even use their legacy card that they lean on a lot. And yeah, man, it's just I don't even know how to go about fixing this. It's so ingrained in the way the game is played and the way the game is designed today that I don't even know how to fix it. And I mean, aside from the obvious, you know, just slash the libraries of every single school and bring us back to 2020, right? Except with card bans on all of the cards that were really overpowered back then. But there is no way to fix what the developers have intentionally added. And continue to think is good. I don't know what goes on in that echo chamber of theirs, but it's you really just hate to see it, because it's like the game is not good. It is far worse compared to what it was back in 2020, and the designers are just fine with that. They see a dying queue and they are just fine with that. It's like PvP is like the biggest endgame activity, or at least on YouTube. It's like that, it gets a lot of views, and they are hell bent on making it worse. And it's like I have seen people who I've called friends before just sort of slip into this delirium that this era of counter matchups being a thing is a good thing, and it is good for the game. And it's like, I think I've said before that the game is more balanced now, but less fun, and I'd like to walk that back a little bit. I think that there's, like, some of the card bans have been good, but the game is, it's still not balanced. I mean, it's like 3 schools were good back in the day when the game was supposedly unbalanced. And not even supposedly, it was unbalanced, but you could still win on any school if you were just genuinely better at the game. But now you can't win on any school, no matter if you're better at the game or not, just based on the matchup that you get. And like, if you are a Death Wizard right now, who I would give 5th place in terms of the ranking out of 7, if you are a Death Wizard and you are going against a Myth Wizard, like I said, you have no chance. And then if you're a Death Wizard going against an Ice Wizard, which is 7th out of 7, Ice is a worse school than Death, but the Death will still lose because of how the game is designed. And like, that is the one matchup that Ice has that it can reliably win. But it's like, I wish we could go back to the days when everyone could beat everyone, regardless of what school they chose to play on that day, as opposed to what we have now, where it's like, if I chose to play the Ice school and I get a Myth Wizard, it's over. There's no chance for me. It's like the Ice Wizard that I got in the Myth PvP video yesterday. It's like I said, he wasn't playing bad. But because I had every single card that just halted him, he couldn't play the game. All he could do was sit under Brace and a Colossus occasionally, hope it did damage, and it didn't. And that would just be it. That would just be the content. It's like, he can try his absolute best, but I just played on the better school that day. And I don't know. It's like, there are people who will criticize me for wanting everyone to be able to beat everyone. And it just, yeah, I don't get them. And here's hoping, man. Here's hoping that maybe the devs will walk it back someday. Here's hoping that maybe the devs will understand that people don't like counter matchups, because it's like, it's like PvP is less fun today, and I will always stand by that and say that. I've already said it in this video, but PvP is less fun today because of what they have done with counter matchups. It's like, you see a bunch of balanced wizards because they can beat everyone. It's like, you see people play on schools like Myth because they can beat everyone. It's like, what even counters Myth right now? I guess, well, yeah, no, Myth can beat everyone. It's like, if they play correctly, they can beat a Fire. That one's just a straight up toss-up matchup that I think slightly favors them, just like barely. And then they can beat a Life if they just spam buffs and follow the flowchart. So it's like, yeah, we're in a meta where instead of Fire, Ice, and Balance are the definitive top 3, and then it's a huge step down before you get to the next one. We're in a meta where it's Myth, Storm, and Balance that are the top 3, and it's a huge step down before you get to the next one. And yeah, it's just, I don't know if this game's ever going to be able to escape the 3 meta schools type thing. Maybe it will. I think maybe after this update it might be able to. Well, maybe that's wishful thinking. It's going to be Life, then Storm, then Myth after this update. So it'll be 3 schools again that are considered meta. We'll have a big 3 again that can reasonably beat everyone. And then we will have Ice, Death, Balance, and then Fire at the bottom. That's how I think the ranking is going to look. But that's just me. I think it would just be healthier for the game if counter matchups didn't exist. I know that I've been rambling for the last 16 minutes about this, but counter matchups existing in a game like Wiz just never made sense to me. And I hope that maybe the devs will walk this back someday, because at the moment I'm not having very much fun with PvP. It's like I almost never play PvP, and I'm not having fun with it. Like, I upload it because y'all like watching it, and you know, I'm an entertainer. You know, I gotta give the people what they want, and it's like I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to get content for y'all. It's just when I'm trying to get content, sometimes I will queue into a buddy of mine playing on his Life Wizard, and like while I'm in Ice, and that's just it. It's like I went against, like, my first match that I queued up with, that I queued on my Ice back when I was trying to get Wednesday's video, was Cleansable Creation, who I've raided with before, and he was on his Life Wizard. And the second I saw him load in, I saw Chris Story, and I pressed escape and quit because I knew how that was going to go. If I wanted to hold him hostage, I could have, and just sat there and shielded a bunch forever, but we knew how it was gonna go. It's like I tagged him in our guild chat. I was like, "Yo, like, chill on me," and he would just like send a sobbing emoji or whatever. So it was like we both sort of understood. It's like the game sucks to the point where me logging out because I know that I'll lose is more worth both of our time. So yeah, I mean, it's been 18 minutes. I think I should probably wrap this up. So thank y'all for watching this rant. I think that PvP can be saved, but it would be a very drastic change that maybe the community wouldn't survive if it were to happen. But I don't know. Maybe we'll see someday. there was all that talk about old school tournaments, and then I think they never even ended up implementing them. So maybe if they ever do, I will try that out just for old time's sake. But for now, thank y'all for watching. I hate counter matchups. I've been Ice Gold, and be sure to like, subscribe, leave like 50 comments for the algorithm, and I will see y'all later.